There's a kind of intelligence the world rarely notices. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It moves quietly, observing, understanding, and acting when it must. You've seen it before, in the person who listens more than they speak, in the one who walks away from chaos rather than proving a point, in the calm observer sitting in silence while others argue about who's right. This kind of mind is rare, not because few are capable of it, but because most people confuse loudness for wisdom and confidence for truth. But true intelligence is subtle. It doesn't seek validation. It seeks understanding. It doesn't need to dominate the room. It already owns itself. There's a saying attributed to Marcus Aurelius: "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." Real intelligence has nothing to prove. It doesn't measure itself through comparison, but through awareness, through self-control, observation, and restraint. You might not even realize that the qualities you often doubt about yourself, your quiet nature, your overthinking, your love of solitude, your discomfort with meaningless conversations, are not weaknesses. They're signs of depth, of awareness, of inner strength. In a world that rewards noise, your calm might be your greatest advantage. Because intelligence isn't always about knowing more sometimes. It's about seeing clearly, about sensing what others overlook, about acting with clarity when everyone else is lost in confusion. So if you've ever wondered why you don't fit into the noise, why small talk exhausts you, why your thoughts feel too heavy for shallow spaces, you might not be broken. You might simply be more awake than most. In this story, we'll explore 4 quiet signs, subtle, unseen, and often misunderstood, that reveal a different kind of intelligence. Not the kind praised by the world, but the kind that builds inner peace, mastery, and strength, because true wisdom has never been loud. It's the voice that whispers when the world is screaming. The Stoics believed that true wisdom had nothing to do with intellect alone. They spoke of Sophia, not just knowledge, but the harmony between thought and action. To know what is right means nothing unless you live it calmly, consistently, and without pride. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectation, which depends on tomorrow and wastes today." The intelligent person, in Stoic terms, is not one who knows more, but one who understands what truly matters. And that kind of intelligence often hides in plain sight. It doesn't need to win debates. It doesn't chase approval. It simply seeks understanding both of the world and of oneself. You see, the Stoics didn't measure intelligence by words, but by peace. If your knowledge doesn't bring you calm, it's just noise. If your awareness doesn't deepen your gratitude, it's just anxiety. True intelligence is self-governance. It's the ability to rule your own emotions before trying to rule the world. To observe a situation before reacting to it. To choose silence when words would serve only the ego. Marcus Aurelius called this the art of alignment, the alignment of reason, purpose, and peace. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. Every time you choose stillness over reaction, you exercise intelligence. Every time you listen before speaking, or walk away from provocation, you're showing mastery that most mistake for passivity. The modern world praises quick answers, fast opinions, and loud certainty, but the Stoic mind knows that wisdom is slow, deliberate, patient. It allows things to unfold before it judges, and that's the first truth of quiet intelligence. It observes more than it reacts. The quiet mind isn't empty, it's working at a level others can't see. It's filtering, connecting, analyzing, not to impress, but to understand. When you pause before responding, when you take time to think instead of rushing to speak, you demonstrate what the Stoics called sophrosyne, balance, moderation, clarity. It's a rare quality because it requires strength to remain calm in a world that glorifies noise. But this is where true wisdom lies. In the ability to wait, to see clearly before acting, to choose the inner over the outer. You don't need to out-talk anyone. You only need to outsee them. That's the Stoic truth behind quiet intelligence, not the cleverness of words, but the discipline of perception. The one who can control their attention controls their life, and that's the essence of the first quiet sign of real intelligence, observation over reaction. It's strange, isn't it? How the very mind that understands so much often feels the most burdened. How intelligence, real, quiet, reflective intelligence, can make the world feel heavier, not lighter. You see things others don't. You notice the small details, the tone in someone's voice, the hesitation behind a smile, the emptiness behind loud confidence. Your mind connects dots automatically. It sees patterns, cause and effect, emotion beneath logic, and while that's a gift, it's also exhausting. Because the more you see, the more you carry, the more aware you become, the harder it is to be indifferent. You can't unsee the truth once you've seen it. You can't go back to being unaware. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The closer a man is to reason, the closer he is to peace." But before peace comes the storm of understanding, the noise of awareness, the ache of clarity. You see through illusions, but that doesn't always make you happier. It just makes you quieter. You begin to realize that not everyone values truth. Some prefer comfort, distraction, validation. And your calm begins to isolate you. You sit in a room full of people and feel like your thoughts live in another world. You stay silent not because you have nothing to say, but because you know that most won't listen, not truly. That silence can feel lonely, but the Stoics would tell you it's the beginning of self-mastery. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." That's the paradox of quiet intelligence. You see so deeply that others mistake your silence for ignorance. They think your detachment means you don't care. They don't see that you've simply outgrown the need to prove yourself. This is where the inner conflict lies, between your understanding and the world's misunderstanding, between your longing for truth and others' craving for validation. You begin to doubt yourself. You question whether your restraint is wisdom or weakness. You wonder if you should speak up more or blend in just to feel normal. But every time you try to fit in, something inside resists. Because the mind that sees deeply cannot live shallowly again. The quiet, intelligent soul doesn't want attention, it wants meaning. It doesn't seek to win arguments, it seeks to understand why arguments exist at all. You might feel misunderstood, even invisible. But remember this, invisibility is not failure, it's focus. It's a sign that your mind is working on a different level, one that doesn't need to be seen to have value. You've learned to question before reacting, to think before speaking, to understand before judging. That's not confusion, that's wisdom disguised as hesitation, and yes, it can hurt to live this way. It can feel like you're walking through life with your senses turned up too high, noticing everything, feeling everything, thinking too much. But the Stoics would remind you, the pain of awareness is temporary. The peace it leads to is permanent. Quiet intelligence begins as loneliness, but it ends as liberation. The moment you stop trying to be understood and simply understand, you shift from emotional chaos to clarity. That's when you begin to see your silence isn't emptiness. It's your strength preparing to speak only when it matters. There comes a moment when everything you felt, the loneliness, the silence, the overthinking, begins to make sense. Not because the world changes, but because you begin to see your place within it. You stop fighting your quiet nature, you stop apologizing for your depth. You begin to realize that what once felt like isolation is actually clarity. The Stoics would call this moment awakening through understanding. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That's the turning point, when you realize you are not controlled by your thoughts, but by your interpretation of them. Your sensitivity, your stillness, your quiet reflection, they are not weaknesses. They are instruments, tools of perception. You've simply been using them against yourself, but now they start working for you. You begin to notice that your silence unsettles those who seek control through noise. Your calmness disarms anger. Your lack of reaction confuses manipulation. Your patience outlasts chaos. This is the moment when your quiet intelligence becomes visible, not in what you say, but in what you don't. You begin to master the power of response over reaction. When someone insults you, you pause not out of fear, but because you see the futility in responding. You recognize that anger is a form of dependency. It gives control to the one who provokes. Epictetus said, when someone is properly grounded in life, they shouldn't have to look outside themselves for approval. You finally understand this truth. You no longer need validation for your silence. You no longer feel the need to explain your thoughtfulness or defend your restraint. You begin to enjoy the stillness because within it you find strength. That's when peace begins to bloom. You no longer feel compelled to fill every silence with words or every pause with movement. You start to see that the most intelligent action is often inaction, the wisdom to wait before deciding, to observe before judging, to understand before reacting. The same mind that once overanalyzed now learns to accept. The same sensitivity that once overwhelmed you now helps you connect deeply. And the same solitude that once felt heavy now becomes sacred space, your temple for thought, your garden for clarity. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's quiet, subtle, like dawn breaking through fog, but once you see it, you can never unsee it. You realize that the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more depth, more people who think before they speak, act before they react, and seek truth before approval. Your silence, once misunderstood, now becomes your shield. Your awareness, once exhausting, becomes your compass. Your restraint, once seen as weakness, becomes your strength. And that's the Stoics' turning point, when intelligence stops being a burden and becomes a guide. When you stop trying to outthink the world and instead start aligning with it, because intelligence isn't about solving everything. It's about seeing clearly and choosing peace anyway. Wisdom, no matter how deep, means nothing without practice. The Stoics taught that philosophy isn't about words or theories. It's about how you live when no one's watching. So, how does a quietly intelligent person live? They begin by mastering small moments, the unseen, ordinary instances that shape character more than grand gestures ever could. When someone interrupts them mid-sentence, they pause and let silence speak. When the world rushes to respond, they breathe, because not every moment deserves their energy. When chaos calls for reaction, they choose stillness instead. That's the practice. It's not about proving intelligence. It's about preserving peace. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are able, correct them. If not, bear with them. Remember that patience is a form of strength." Every time you resist the urge to correct someone who doesn't want to understand, you strengthen your discipline. Every time you choose patience over pride, you sharpen your intellect. And every time you walk away instead of engaging in pointless noise, you protect your inner order. That's what real intelligence looks like in action. It's quiet but unshakable. It doesn't demand to be seen because it knows its worth. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to outshine others, realizing that the brightest minds rarely seek attention. Instead, you let your peace do the talking. The Stoics lived by praxis, the daily embodiment of their beliefs. Seneca wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Apply that same rule to your mind. Waste no more time proving how smart you are. Be intelligent through awareness, restraint, and calm presence." The quietly intelligent person doesn't react impulsively, doesn't gossip, doesn't chase validation. They invest their energy in things that grow: learning, discipline, reflection, service. They understand that every reaction steals a bit of power. And so they practice the Stoic art of non-reaction, not as suppression, but as mastery. In modern life, this might look like choosing to listen more than you speak in meetings, turning off your phone for an hour to think clearly, writing down your thoughts instead of arguing them, letting go of the need to win every debate. These aren't small habits, they are powerful acts of self-governance. Because the one who governs their inner world cannot be ruled by the outer one. That's why the Stoics believed that discipline is the highest form of intelligence. Not because it's rigid, but because it's rooted in awareness. The practice of a Stoic mind is not to seek control over everything, but to master the one thing you can truly command: yourself. So you keep refining your responses, not to be perfect, but to be present. You keep observing your emotions, not to suppress them, but to understand them. And you keep walking calmly through a world that confuses silence with weakness, because you know intelligence doesn't shout. It observes, it endures, it acts with purpose. This is the quiet strength that builds unshakable minds. It's the daily Stoic practice of thinking clearly, speaking little, and living wisely. And when you begin to live this way, when calm becomes your default, and peace your power, you no longer try to appear intelligent. You simply are. In the end, true intelligence doesn't seek to be noticed. It seeks to understand. It doesn't crave applause. It craves clarity. You begin to realize that being smart was never about being admired. It was about being aware. Aware of your own thoughts, your patterns, your emotions, and the world that constantly tests them. The world measures intelligence by speed: how quickly you speak, how fast you answer, how sharp your tongue can cut. But the Stoic measures it by depth: how calmly you think, how wisely you respond, how gracefully you endure. You learn that silence is not emptiness, it's comprehension. Stillness is not stagnation, it's power. And solitude is not loneliness, It's space for the mind to breathe. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And a quietly intelligent person tends their thoughts the way a gardener tends soil, patiently, deliberately, protecting it from weeds. You start valuing peace over recognition and understanding over victory. You see that wisdom doesn't grow in noise, it grows in stillness. That's why the most intelligent people often seem quiet, detached, or lost in thought. They're not avoiding the world, they are perceiving it. They're not absent, they're deeply present, observing from a higher vantage point. You learn to be at peace with being misunderstood. Because wisdom doesn't argue, it endures. You let your actions reveal what your words never could, and somewhere along the path, something subtle shifts inside you. You stop trying to prove your intelligence to others, and start proving it to yourself through your restraint, your patience, your compassion. This is the quiet revolution of a Stoic mind, a rebellion not of words but of composure. You realize that the truly intelligent person isn't the loudest voice in the room. They're the calm presence that grounds everyone else. In a world chasing attention, you choose focus. In a world driven by reaction, you choose control. In a world addicted to noise, you choose silence. Because you've learned that silence itself is wisdom expressed without sound, stillness itself is strength displayed without force, and intelligence itself is peace achieved without pride. That's the secret Stoic truth. You don't need to be known to be wise. You only need to be awake. So you walk quietly, with calmness in your mind and steadiness in your heart. You no longer rush to be heard, because your peace has become your greatest statement. And when you reach that level of understanding, you finally see what the Stoics meant all along. That wisdom isn't something you acquire. It's something you become. Intelligence isn't how much you know, it's how deeply you see. Peace is not found in knowing more. It's found in needing less.